Okay, so Moses said I need to take over for. Here I am taking over for a minute, I guess. All I was going to say were two things. In the verse 6, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So there's two parts of this. There's Genesis 3 and 6a and Genesis 3 and 6b, which is glamour, right? Hey, glamour work, certainly. Okay. Because she saw, now they had been in this garden for however long and never considered eating this tree. All right. So how might glamour work? Now I know the knee-jerk reaction is to use glamour in love workings. All right. But you can also use glamour if you're in marketing. You're trying to sell something. You're out there at Sam's trying to sell DirecTV or whatever the case may be. Then you want to glamour what it is that you're selling. Okay, literally, he sold them a product. You know, he's got to be a good salesman. He sold them an apple or a fruit in the middle of a garden. They used to say in marketing that the best marketer can sell snow to the Eskimo and sand in the Sahara Desert. And I mean, here we see he's selling them fruit in the middle of an orchid. Okay, so I'm using it in the conventional sense. In this case, yes. All right. Now, glamour as a working normally indicates to glamour something, to put on something, means to, or as we say in the South, to put a shine on something. Put a shine on it means to glamour it up, or to work on it so it becomes more appealing, more alluring, right? It draws more attention, right? You might put a shine on somebody so they can get that job they've been looking for. You might put a shine on them so they will, bed the man that she wants, or bed the woman that he wants, or marry them, or whatever, right? So to put that allure, okay, that glamour, that shine on them. All right. It was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired. It was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired. Okay. So here we see, as I said before, using glamours. Okay. That's one. Number two is probably the oldest love spell in history. This is so ironic. That's not funny. Feeding someone. All right, feeding someone. Okay, I was speaking with a client, and she told me that she comes from a line of root doctors, and her great grandfather was a cunning man, a root doctor, but great grandma left him when she caught him pissing in her coffee. So that's what she told me. I said, wow. But here we see she eats, and she gives of her husband to eat. And he did eat. Right? So whether, the idea of, Eve having the red apple, giving it to Adam to eat, or whatever she may have that's red, giving it to him to eat. Okay, whether it's in the spaghetti, as we say, or the red velvet cake, so on, the red rice. Okay, those are very strong motifs down here in the South. You don't eat everybody's red rice. You don't eat everybody's spaghetti, and so on. Right? You don't eat everybody's food. All right. Now I decided to have a whole series. I had to have a whole 3-part series, as a matter of fact, on my channel from like 3 years ago, called "Eat the Cake Anime." No. I revised that. I didn't call it that. I changed the title. It's now called "A Cult Poisoning." That's what it's called. And it's about hoodooing the food. All right, tricking someone through their food, and there are a number of different tricks with that. To tie someone to you, to make them tell the truth, to have them obsessed with you, to drive somebody away. As we said before, live things in a person, make a person ill and sick, make them crawl at your. There's a number of different things you can do in a person's food. All right, you know, as the old timers would say, even as Dr. King likes to say, you know, they don't call it potluck for nothing. You don't want somebody to have your luck and they pot. All right, by fixing you through your food. All right, so bear that in mind. Okay, even, you know, where you sit when you're at the table. Y'all need to go and watch that 3-part series. I think it's like over an hour and a half. I was going on 2 hours of content just on, you know, tricks and remedies of fixed food and tricking through the food. But what I will say is there are a number of ways to deal with that, because in some cases you can't avoid it. I mean, you cannot eat, you can, but you know, what are you going to do when you're at the family reunion? Or maybe you're in a situation where the person is cooking your food for you. All right. There are works that can be done. You can counter that. Like, for example, 4 Thieves vinegar. There are a couple of recipes out there that can be taken before and after you ingest that trick. All right. Charcoal, activated charcoal, all right, can be consumed. All right. Y'all know the song, you put the lime in the coconut. All right. That's a trick. All right. To help reverse ingested witchcraft. Add a little bit of red pepper in that. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You add lime juice into a fresh coconut, add a little bit of, just a little pinch of cayenne pepper, and knock it back. All right. It'll flush those things out of your system. Now, some works are heavier than others. Those little small remedies might not move it, especially if you've been, especially if it's been working on you for a long time. You see, it is written that the prophets of Jezebel ate at her table. Why? Because if I can control what you eat, I can control what you have an appetite for, what your desires are. All right. There are certain things that can be eaten to not see. The idea was that addiction was in the mouth. Okay, and so by ingesting certain things, chewing certain things, you can knock the addiction out of a person's mouth, or give them, or heighten, or I should say exacerbate their addiction by what you feed them. All right. Even further, what is spoken over food? You know, the old folks, you know, they wouldn't cook if they were upset, because that stuff gets in the food. Right? Anger, rage, envy, etc. That stuff gets in the food. And like they say, grandma put her foot off in this. In other words, you can taste the love. You can taste the love in food. When somebody does it because they love cooking, or they love the people they're cooking for. Yeah, cook with love. It can also be cooked with anger, cooked with jealousy. All right. Had a case, remember not long ago, it's about 6 years or so ago now, this was before I even got to Colombia. And I don't know longer than that. And every time this woman would cook, only the children would get sick. Now, was she doing something malicious on purpose? Divination showed no, she wasn't. But what she did have was she didn't have any children. Okay. And so she envied her. She was casting the evil eye on the fruit of her sister's womb. So her nieces and nephews would always get sick whenever she would cook. Why? Because envy, the evil eye, was in the pot. Matter of fact, you look in the scriptures. I want to say 2 Kings, maybe chapter 6 or chapter 7, talks about how there was death in the pot. There was death in the pot. And they called for the prophet to cure the pot of food. They said, alas, my master, death is in the pot. So, you even find in Ezekiel where it talks about how the elders of the city, those in leadership, had broken the people's bones, cut them asunder, and put them in their cauldrons. Okay? Put them in their cauldrons. So, that's a whole other conversation, but it's related here because it talks about food. All right? And how you can be fixed and tricked and worked on through what you are ingesting, through what you're eating, because now it begins to work from the inside out. So if I feed you something, then I also have an oil, I also have a powder. Now it's both from the inside out and from the outside in. Okay. Even when you are sitting in certain places. Hey there, God bless you. You don't know what is under that plate, what's under that tablecloth, what's under that mat, what's under that chair. People can write things. They can inscribe, especially if you have wooden tables. They can inscribe things under the table. All right, or inscribe things under. They keep insisting you sit at this side of the table or on this particular chair. You see, they can, and it is very often, from my tradition, the seat at the head of the table. All right, they would add certain things. They'd make a small slit in the cushion of the chair and pack certain things in there. All right. Normally it was to control someone, because normally the person at the head of the table is the one with the authority or the power, the influence or whatever. You see. So a woman could work her husband, per se, when he sits at the head of the table. You see. That idea of eating out of somebody's hand. You know. Because you can use your fingernail clippings. Okay. Now you say, well, Doc, I can't put my fingernails in that man's soup. He gonna start choking. He gonna say, bitch, what the hell is this? No. So I can tell you I've been a Hoodoo Delicious group. No, you don't put your fingernail clippings in the man's mashed potatoes. What you do is, Hoodoo Delicious ain't gonna tell you this. You need to roast it. All right? You need to roast it. You take your fingernail clippings. You take your toenail clippings. Fingernail soup, you see. Then he'll be coming to me over the trick I gave you. You see, it's happened before too. Put me in a very cursed situation. But what you do is you get your cast iron skillet, an old school skillet. I don't know about these new school stuff these days, but an old school cast iron skillet. And you put your fingernail clippings in there. Your nail clippings in there. And you bring it down to an ash. All right. And that's how you add it. I thought she was a caterer. Child, looking at her work, you think that she put food in everything, child. It's like she missed her calling, you know. I saw that chick put shiitake mushroom with something. I was like, what in the... Anywho. Like Hoodoo on the Food Network. I don't know. Anyhow. You can pound that down. Then you take your mortar and pestle. Because it's carbon. It's carbon. So, it's going to burn. And it's going to make like... Well, you're going to take that and you're going to compound it down, bring it into powder in a mortar and pestle. All right. And what you can that you can add a pinch at a time, very innocuously. Okay. Especially like in a soup or something like that, certainly. You can go a step further and take that and add black peppercorn. I know Cat Iron didn't tell you this. Peppercorn. Because now it's both the color and the texture of pepper, and the pepper taste will overpower the charred taste to it. And you just season his chicken. You see, that's how you do that like that there, you see. Or, you season her mashed potatoes. As I said in the help, this is your special pie. This is your special pie. No. Made just for you. Made just for you. No. You don't want that. No, this is just for her. Oh yes. I took my time on this one. All right. What's in the fingernail? To make them eat out of your hand, right? The hand, manus, right? The word manipulate. I can't. She said, I'm fasting. She said, I can't fool with y'all. She said, I'm fasting. She said, it's Lent season. I'm fasting. I ain't nothing. I ain't nothing. Okay, I ain't nothing. But the word manipulate, root word there is manus, meaning hand, to handle something, to handle somebody, right? To make them lick out of your hand. All right? You feed a dog hand to mouth. You feed your animals hand to mouth. Right? You feed babies hand to mouth. You see. All right. And also your toenails to make them come to your feet. All right. So one is control. All right. One is dominance and influence. Make them follow behind you. Oh, it's not a joke. That's the honest truth. And don't get me to asking my Obeah friends to talk to you about sweat rice. Because there's the oldest love spell in the book. The oldest love spell in the book. Okay. So we see here, the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Okay. What you do is, we're getting a little bit off topic, but what you do is, with the period blood, okay, or the cum rag. I'm an evil opportunist. Okay, I don't want to get sexist in my conjure. You know, the brothers be hounding me. Well, Doug, you always talking about the woman. It's always been in front of our eyes. It's you know, something that Mama Ruth said. She's absolutely right. You can't separate black folk magic from black folk. You can't. They're one and the same. You see. To the point that our technologies have become traditions. So, well, I'm gonna answer your question. There goes my apprentice there. He would say we were just talking about live things just 2 days ago. So, to answer your question, Rasadu, is actually in the word there. Remember, Adam and Eve, Adam as it were, was not created in the garden. That's an assumption people have. The text does not say that. But the text says that God created him and then God placed him in the garden. So where it was created is anybody's guess, all right? But he was placed in the garden. Now, here's a question for you. What is a garden? Right? Like, for example, what's the difference between a garden and a field? Can I have a 14-acre garden? What is a garden? He planted a garden in Eden. So we have this other place where they were created. Then we have Eden. Then there's a garden in the east of Eden in particular. Well, the thing that separates garden, the root word for garden is guard. The difference between a garden and a field is that a garden is demarked. It is enclosed. All right. And so to have a garden, you have to have a guardian. All right? It means it's been guarded. So how was the serpent permitted in? Adam wasn't doing his job. He said, keep the garden. The word there in the Hebrew is shamar. It means to marshal, to senator, to watch, to police, to keep. You thought it just meant to prune back the flowers. No. And often back in the day, the garden would either be staked off, or you would have what they call a hedge. Okay, a hedge. Hedge bushes was to protect the garden. Normally in the old school, they would have. So you have a house, all right. Front of your house, you got your door, you got the both sides of the house, right? You would have hedge bushes, all right, a little bit away from the house. But between the hedge and the house will be a little garden there. How many know what I'm talking about? Don't act like I'm speaking amiss. Y'all went to y'all grandparents' house. You know what I'm talking about. All right. One reason is because oftentimes they would put the hedges. So you got your gutter system, right? So they would put the hedges just out from the gutters, all right? So the rain can fall down and water the garden, all right? So the word there here, he said to keep or to tend to the garden. It didn't just mean to prune back and pluck up the weeds. All right. It would either be demarked by, stakes, all right, or hedges, or like vines or something with thorns. Okay. To demark the garden. Okay. You think about your community garden. Normally has a gate to it. All right. That's what garden. That's what a garden is. It means that something is being guarded. It's a vault, as it were. Okay. So now you say, well, how can you say that? Because this whole time we see he's gotten in the garden and he's talking to Eve. So Adam is somewhere, wherever, left his whole post. Not marshaling, not policing, not being a senator. The word there, I think, is in chapter 2. All right. Now you see in chapter 2, verse 5, it says there was not a man there to till the ground. Till the ground. Hold that thought. Okay. And then verse 15, to dress it, all right, which means to govern, it means to service it, all right, but then also to keep it, all right, and that word there is shamar, all right, literally to hedge about as with thorns, that is to guard, to protect, to attend to be aware of, to circumspect. As in circle meaning circle, right? To be on rotation, right? Circumspect, to take heed, to keep, to mark, to look narrowly, meaning to inspect, to observe and to preserve, to regard and to reserve, to save and to watch, as in a watchman. So it's more than just, oh, he was in there with his little pruning, pruning away, no, he wasn't in there with a little sun hat on and his knee pads, you know. All right. Well, I knew it was, well, I'll say this. Had he protected the garden, he would have necessarily had to protect her. All right. I'm not the mindset that a woman needs a man. I'm not gonna give that any biblical significance. But what I will say is, had he done his job, all right, had he done his job, and I think that's true of today, right? If brothers do their job, we won't have to be talking about, you know, it wouldn't be a thing that a woman should need a man. We know that she doesn't. But it wouldn't even be a conversation that the brothers are doing with this what we did to begin with. So we have some things we have to work on, fellas. We need to make sure we're tending to the garden. We're keeping the garden. We're not slacking. Okay? We're not slacking. Okay? I believe that a woman can do what a man can do. I don't believe that she should always have to. I believe that she should always have to. So, we see both of these here. All right, going to verse 6. Verse 7. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. Well, he did lie to them. All right. That's what I was saying before. He's subtle. The lie was not that they would be like God. The lie was the implication that they were not already like God. That was the lie. That was the subtlety. Right? That if you do this, you will be more you. Right? We already see in the previous chapters that God created, it says clearly, God created them, man and woman, male and female, in his image after his likeness. So how can you bribe me with the likeness of God? I already had the likeness of God. You see, that was the lie. All right. The other implication is this. The serpent, and she hit it right on the head. The serpents of our thoughts are always conspiring against the divine, against God, against the good. And by that I mean, you've got to, your mind is a garden. Your mind is a garden. And you've got to watch and marshal your thoughts. Lest serpents should find the wind. The Bible says this in the book of Ecclesiastes, is that he that breaketh the hedge, the serpent shall bite him. He that breaketh the hedge, the serpent shall bite him. When you break the hedge of concentration, when you break the hedge of focus, when you break the hedge of your resolve, you will be bitten. Now, we know that the implications of being bitten by a snake is being poisoned. There are thoughts trying to penetrate your mind, to poison your mind. They want you to partake of bad fruit, like doubt, unbelief, self-loathing, insecurity, fear. But you have to guard the garden of your mind. All right? The word Eden means pleasure. You've got to guard your pleasure. What do I mean by that? So he planted a garden in the east of Eden. There's certain pleasures you have, certain ways that you detox, ways that you unwind, that you need to guard. Guard your time. Even if it's just your spiritual bath, shut the world out. See that tub as a hedge. And you're in your garden where you can sit and reflect. You can sit and think. You can sit and tend to and keep your garden. The garden of your mind. The garden of your thoughts. There are always serpents lurking outside the purview and the periphery of your mind, of your awareness. There's always something that is vying for your attention, saying, doesn't this look good? Doesn't it look good to think, to doubt more? Doesn't it look good to be more afraid? Hey, look over here. Touch not, handle not. Don't eat of that. But when we break the hedge, the serpent shall bite us. And many parts of our life are infected with fear, infected with doubt, infected with disease. Because we've allowed the hedge of our minds to be broken. There is something about, if you go into old school hoodoo, they would tell you when you make name papers to hedge the paper, right? You would write your command around those names in an unbroken line. Hedge them in. So no matter what direction they may be going. If they go right, they'll see your command. They go left, they'll see your command. They look forward, they'll see your command. They look behind, they'll see your command. They look up, they'll see your command. They look under, they'll see. Any way they, because of 2D space. It's a 2D space. So you have to guard your mind. When you're doing name papers, I did some research on this, and I was trying to find like the origins of that, writing the name around it in an unbroken line or whatever. And I was at the point of thinking it was a modern invention because I didn't hear about that too recently, right? To actually start studying hoodoo in the online world. Okay. Now, whether it's old or not, again, I have a limited purview. Okay. There are many traditions of conjuring. I'm just speaking from my own. I don't know what I can say. But what I can say is, in the very least, it is a psychological device to focus. All right? Because If you're writing in an unbroken line, that means that your intention is very, very strong. That means that your force of will is that resolved and that resolute. All right? That your pen doesn't even lift off the paper. But also, it's a psychological device because when your mind wanders to something else, you'll find instinctually you'll lift your pen. Right? Because that's how we taught how to write. Right? We write words. So we write, this is in cursive. All right. Then we end that word or that thought, and then we engage another word in cursive. Then we stop that thought. So it's built into us to lift our pen when a new thought comes. All right. So it's built in. So that discipline to keep writing, to keep that intense focus all the way around in an unbroken line, is going to further solidify your intention. And the result you're going to get from it is going to be stronger. All right. The eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. This word here, well, yeah, I'm gonna let when Moses comes back, I'm gonna let him delve into that because there's a lot of different tree motifs in the Hebrew system. I want him to really pull out. This word here, naked. Where am I at? Naked. There we go. Okay. From the Hebrew key 6191, meaning it says here, primitive root, to be or to be made, to make something bare. All right. In other words, to make it plain, make it aware. Right. If I bear something, I expose it to you. Right. It's no longer hidden anymore, right? The depth of thought is there. All right. Now, what's going on here is duality is setting in. That's how thinking happens, right? We have a thought and a counter thought, and a thought and a counter thought, and a thought and a counter thought, right? It's a knowing and a counter knowing, all right? We call this doubt. All right. But the word doubt, root, just simply means to double. That's why double, double, and doubt, doubt means a double-minded man or woman. Right? They double back. We think, and then we think again. And we think so, and then we think not. We think so, and we think not. And we think so. So there's this good and this evil, this right and this wrong. This on this hand, then on the other hand. Right? So now we've come into the intellect. The intellect, the reason, the rationale, likes to break things apart into categories, into smaller pieces, right? So it breaks them down, breaks them down, breaks them down, breaks them down, breaks them down. We see this also in the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. Okay, there's an analysis aspect to one. All right, to doubt or to question, right? Cogito ergo sum, Descartes says. I think, therefore I am. Dubito et ergico, no wait, dubito, I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. Dubito ergo, cogito ergo sum. I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. Right? So this was the place of self-awareness. Now you may think that's a good thing, because today we see everything's about being more aware of self, more aware of self, more aware of self. Context, it is talking about and is speaking to individuation. There's not just God. There's not just God awareness. There's now self-awareness. All right? They knew they. They knew they. What does it mean that their eyes were opened? If you close your eyes, what do you see? If you close your eyes, what do you see? Come on, talk back to me. Think about it. You see darkness, black, nothingness, nothing. But even the black, even the darkness, even the nothingness is still singular, isn't it? It's undifferentiated blackness, or undifferentiated nothingness, or undifferentiated darkness. There's oneness there. The no thing is the one thing. Right? But when your eyes are opened, now the one thing is fractured into everything, into many things. Like the analytical mind takes the whole thing and begins to fracture it, break it down. So there was a God awareness. Right? But now there's become a distinction, a self-awareness. There's a good and an evil. The tree has branches. Right? So it's in the place of meditation that we hold the oneness of thought. We hold a single thought. Jesus said, if your eye be single, one, if your eye, not your eyes, but if your eye be single, your whole body will be filled of light. Again, light, as darkness, is undifferentiated. Well, you say white, light, brilliance, radiance is undifferentiated. But it can be fractured into the rainbow. So here, are y'all hearing me? Am I speaking over you? Or are y'all catching what I'm saying? Let me know if I'm kind of speaking nonsense. What I'm trying to show you is that what happens in creation happens in consciousness. Happens in consciousness. It is written of a truth. Acts 17:21. It is in him, in God, that we live and move and have our being. Yes. You got it, Rasadu. They were one with God. They were like God. They were the very image of God. Image as in reflection. Right? Earth and heaven were to be mirror images. All right? They didn't look into God without seeing themselves, and God didn't look into them without seeing itself. Right? They were made in the image of God and the likeness of God. All right? They're made in both the image and the likeness of God. All right, Moses in here. He can take over from here. Both the image and the likeness of God. There he is.
I'm back. I don't know where you ended up.
While you do that, let me go get my charger.
I'm charged up now. Where'd you leave off though, Doc?
So I left. I don't want to get too far away from you.
I figured.
So, I can go all night on one verse. It don't nothing.
Well, and here's the thing: I can go back to what we were talking about, and I can go forward. Because if I want to go back, I want to go back and just do the snakes and conjure. We didn't talk about using a snake to lay a trick, and we didn't talk about just laying tricks out in the serpentine.
Let me go get my charger.
I'll let you get your charger. Thanks to Doc for holding it down while I was gone there. I know he didn't get too far ahead of me. I wanted to go through, and really once we get to the 20s, this is going to get to an interesting point in Genesis. The idea that at this point, man and woman were fundamentally in purely spiritual form. They had no physical form. That in fact, eating from the tree is what caused it to condense further, and that they enter a physical form. And Doc, we've talked about that before, how prior to the event of eating from the tree, man and woman were not, or humanity as it were not enmeshed in the material. It is this that brings the humans down to a material plane, to a vibration that we recognize as the material, enmeshes us in the material. And we see this, I'm skipping very far ahead, skipping a bunch of verses. Obviously, we'll go back. But, was it 21? 21, and the Lord God made for Adam and for his wife shirts of skin, and he dressed them. And so we're still about 10 verses before that.
It is written in Psalms chapter 8, David says, "Who is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that thou visitest him?" Right? Who is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that thou should consider him? To consider means to side with. It means to consider, to think. So man had a state where he was in the mind of God. Thou art mindful of him. Number one. Number two, Paul comes back and says in Acts 17:21, it is in him, in God that is, that we live and move and have our being. Further, we go back to Genesis chapter 1:26. We see clearly that God forms them. All right? Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. But then in chapter 2, it says that they had not yet been formed. There was no seed in the ground. Let me just go back there just one quick second. Let me just go back to chapter 2 here. Okay. I want to really work this. Chapter 2, verse 4. These were the generation of the heavens and of the earth when they were created in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. Verse 5. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth. That's how I have it here in my translation. And every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. Three things. There was plant, herb, and man. Notice something. How it says that every herb of the field before it grew. In what state can a thing be in before it grows?
We said last week I think we were looking at that last week. We were talking about a seed that has sprouted, but has not yet broken the soil.
But it's growing. Even
Sure.
if it is sprouting, it's still growing.
So then a seed.
But it says even before it grew. So that means that there is something here energetically speaking, that the seed before it takes on physical form. How do I know this? Because there's not a man to till the ground. He just created man.
Right.
So where was man created? It was in another energetic, that there is an energetic side of you before you have physical form. So when we speak to people like, well, does the ear of corn really have ears? Well, the spirit of that thing is listening. All right. Every plant of the field before it was in the earth, before it was in the physical domain, it existed elsewhere. There's a genetic structure, an energetic blueprint it contains. And we can speak to that, right? That's what conjure does. We take the material world, all right, and we speak to the energetic blueprint of it. I'll put it to you like this, very plainly said. I'll knock off on this. So if you have a Windows computer, all right, I guess even Mac, because I never, I've always been safe. I don't do with Apple and that kind of crazy. I don't believe. But yeah, play those forms exactly. If you have a Windows computer, you get the general user account and the administrator account. All right. If you have an iPhone, they call it jailbreaking. You got an Android, they call it rooting the device. All right. The idea is that when a device leaves the factory, all right, it is not operating at its absolute fullest capacity. Sure. Maybe about 80%. All right. But there's certain, for example, developer things in it that you can access. A developer. All right. Or like we say, the API. All right. All creation has an API. All right. Conjure acts as the root account of creation. All right. So on one level, somebody might say, "Oh, this is a nice purple stone. Let's just get this. This is a nice little purple stone, nice little purple rock." But you say, "No, this is amethyst. This can help heighten spiritual awareness. There's an API in here for that." Oh, well, this I love bananas. Yeah. But bananas, all right, help you get hard and stay hard. There's an API in that. You see, conjures accessing the API of creation. All right, before the plant was in the physical earth, it existed. Before the earth was in the ground, it existed. Before man was on the ground, he existed. Now we see later on that fall is from that purely energetic state of consciousness into density. I'm gonna knock off on that.
No, it's a perfect segue because it leads into the practical use, and it leads into exactly what we're working with. That's a point I was thinking about earlier today, how it's not the same as working with the herbs in just a material form, cooking, for example, right? There you're working with the herbs in their material form, the same herbs. Right? You work with rosemary, you can work with these exact same herbs in the material form. And if you do that, then you're just cooking. Right? And you could go through the whole process of doing that and just be cooking. When you make those API calls, right? When you access at these primary levels of creation, the spirit is primary to the material. The idea that the spiritual precedes the material, and that's why it's described earlier in the chapter. Every tree that has within it the seed of its own kind. That's the seed. The seed is not the physical small thing that grows into another tree. It's the DNA, which, as we were saying the other week, the DNA is the artifact of the movement of spirit. The DNA is the effect, not the cause. And that, in fact, that movement of spirit is what causes generation after a kind, an